What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at Super7's deluxe version of Tygra. So let's see what we've got going on. Let's check it out. As promised, today we'll be taking a look at Super7's Deluxe Tygra. So let's see what we've got going on. Taking a look at the package, we are on this more trimmed down Super7 box packaging, retro card if you will, deluxe line, so a subline to that Super7 stuff. So similar to those other Super7 Thundercats figures, slightly pared down, a little bit less going on, and about $15 or so less retail, right? Tygra deluxe action figure. Flip it to the side, you can get a good look at Tygra in there. You see your deluxe label at the bottom. Flip it to the back. Nice image of Thundercats, right? Real reminiscent of my childhood, right? So that's what it's all about. It's all about that nostalgia. Super7 Deluxe Thundercats. Cool image there. Flip it back to the side. Again, you can see right through. You got your deluxe label at the bottom. Let's get him out of the box. Fresh out of the packaging, we get Tygra and his Bolo Whip. And that's it. That's it. That's what you get. So you would think for the price point, now these are like 35 plus at Target, you'd like to see a little bit more packed in there for that price. Conversely, I mean, you're not spending the upward price of a regular Super7 release, especially this far in the game. I guess there's an argument to be made there, but I would definitely like to see a little bit more in the packaging at that price point. Now, I did have some coupons, so I didn't pay the full price, so it does take away a little bit of the pain, but still, you know, just that thought. This figure, though, look, I had to have it, so I would have paid the $35, right? That's a lot to say, you know, $35, blah, 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 but still a cool-looking figure, something I needed the representation for, something I want on the shelf. So what's the price you put on the things that you just have to have? I don't know. That's up to you. That's enough talking. Let's take a closer look. Moving in closer, we can get a good look at Tygra here. And he looks cool. The colors pop. I think it's going to be a nice addition to the shelf. Maybe it looks a little plain on the paint, right? Like, I feel like you could squeeze a lot more detail in there. The paint apps seem to be pretty low-key, not any sort of shading or depth to those paint apps, but it certainly is a pretty decent representation, right? I look at it, I know it's Tygra, it's going to look cool on the shelf. I have the Lion-O from this deluxe line, so that'll mix in. Again, I'm not one that wants to pay up for the other releases, so I will temper my expectations and limit my concerns or complaints for the price point and the details. But yeah, I mean, for what it is, it does feel like it could be a little bit better. Taking a look at the articulation, the head does not move very far going forward, so you get a little bit of movement there, but again, not a whole lot forward, and conversely, not a whole lot backwards either. If there was any sort of additional movement backwards, you'd be limited by the hair anyhow, so that's where you are there. You do get plenty of movement side to side, though, a little bit of rock in there, so you'll be able to get some movement to make your poses, but you're not going to be getting anything super dynamic out of that. Arms do work all the way around. Arm goes up and out to about there. Upper bicep cut. Single jointed at the elbow, nothing at your forearm, and then hinge swivel at the wrist. You do have an ab crunch and hip swivel. Now that ab crunch, again, doesn't go far very much, right? And backwards, I guess you get a little bit more going backward. Hips, though, that'll move all the way around. Leg will kick up to about there, back to about there, out only to about there. Nothing at your upper thigh, single jointed at the knee, and bends to about there. Boot cut, and then you do have a hinge swivel at the ankle. Here is a look at your Bolo Whip for your accessory. Now there's no sort of wire or anything in there. It is a regular string. So you'll have to kind of play around with how you want to use that in your display. But I think it does have a decent enough look to get to where you want it to be. For comparison, here he is backed up against our Lion-O from this same deluxe subline. You can see, I mean, the aesthetics are a little off, right? The colors are certainly better on the standard Super 7 releases for these figures. But again, I guess they're a more accessible iteration of these figures, something slightly more attainable for your collection. Not that it's supremely hard to track down those other ones, but it is something maybe a little bit more readily available. And for me, it just boils down to having the representation on the shelf, right? If I was going to recommend to anybody, I might recommend that you just spend the extra money on the other releases. You may be a little bit more satisfied with your purchase at the end of the day there. All right, folks, well, there you have it. There is your Super 7 Deluxe Tygra from Thundercats, hitting targets now, apparently. I stumbled upon this on the shelf. It had sold out on the app, so I was pleasantly surprised to run into it. Am I slightly disappointed? I think so. There are some things I would prefer to see or like to see, especially at the price point. Specifically some extra hands, maybe like open hand options, just to give some additional ability for your display. That's not a lot to ask for at the 35 plus price point. You know, the figure though does look cool, right? I did grab it. I could have turned away and not gotten this figure and left that spot empty on the shelf and moved on, right? But I did want the representation, so ultimately, was it worth it for me? Yeah, but I don't feel as good as I might with some other purchases. So you may say the dollar to detail is not there on these particular releases, right? With NECA, I'm getting a whole lot more for around the same price. With Legends, I'm getting a little bit more for a few dollars less. So that's kind of the basis for comparison here. Anyway, that's the 2 cents, folks. I do appreciate you checking out the video. Of course, you can always find me on any of these socials down here. Most importantly, though, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe below. And until next time, take it easy.